Time for the 49ers Rush Podcast.
We're just over 10 episodes down of the 49ers countdown for 2024, and we're to player 81. We're going with defensive end Raymond Johnson III. It's interesting because the 49ers seem to have gone with a more veteran approach to their kind of undrafted free agents. Yeah, they signed a handful this year, but they also brought in a lot of seasoned practice squad veterans, if that makes sense. And that's exactly what we get with Raymond Johnson III. Somebody that's been on 3 separate teams' practice squads for 3 years. He's 26 years old, so still young. That's on par with a lot of the rookie class, a little, 1 or 2 years older, but somebody that's been through the NFL, and you don't have to teach them how to be a pro. He struggled cracking starting lineups, but as we look at Raymond Johnson, he fits the mold that the 49ers like. They have 2 different types of defensive ends. One is the big run-stuffing, solid, you look at Yatir Gross-Matos, you look at Cleveland Farrell, those bigger-bodied, 6'5", 270 type defensive ends. And the other one are your pass rushing specialists, Drake Jackson, Robert Jackson III, D Ford, these smaller bend true pass rushers, and that's where Raymond Johnson III fits in. 6'3", 264, 33.25 inch arms, pretty solid, 26 years old, ran a 4.78 40-yard dash, that's not bad, and a 7.23 cone, pretty solid. That's where he fits in. Now, we had a pretty big spectrum when grading Robert Johnson III. His highest rated ranking out of the 4 that we did was 70, and his lowest was 84. So that's about where he is. A back-end practice squad hopeful is kind of the projection. Because you start with 91, you go down to 53, and then you build out your 16-person practice squad. So you're looking at the top 70 players. Those are going to be the ones that stick around. He comes in at 81, just slightly behind kind of that projection. But when we look at the depth chart, which that's what we'll do at the conclusion of this episode, I think we find not a difficult route for Raymond Johnson III to be a part of the practice squad moving forward. So, who is this guy? He's entering his 4th season, grew up in Sumter, South Carolina, very historic city for sure. Graduated from Georgia Southern in interdisciplinary studies in sports management. So the longer he's been around the league and the amount of teams he's been around, that's huge. Maybe he can, land with one of those teams somewhere along there. And, the 49ers got a pretty big history with Georgia Southern. Matt Breida, even the other running back that we paid a lot of money to that then went to the Chiefs, Jerick McKinnon. We've had some Georgia Southern players come through in the past. Now, defensive line's a little bit different. Grew up in Columbia, South Carolina. Was a big basketball player there as well. All-state selection and one of the best. He was the number 2 player coming out of South Carolina. Just a stud defensive lineman. He was up there big time as far as D lineman goes. 37 overall, number 2 defensive line player out of South Carolina. I think I said that incorrectly a while ago. I apologize. But he put together a pretty solid career at Georgia Southern. Changed his numbers a couple times. And he even had Georgia Southern, their uniforms, which I ain't gonna lie, I had to try out with them way back in the day, coming out of high school because my dad was in Georgia, so I was like, whatever, we'll see what happens. But their uniforms are fire. They kind of look like the old Detroit Lions throwbacks, the silver blue type look, but it's a darker blue. But he wore 0 for a year, and it looks cool. Uniform-wise, checkmate, incredible. And what he was able to do in the Sun Belt, at Georgia Southern, given it's not SEC or a Power 5 school, they play some solid football down there. And, all Sun Belt first team 2020, all Sun Belt first team 2019, all Sun Belt 2018, all Sun Belt honorable mention 2017. He put together a solid career. And you look at just what he was able to accomplish. 36 career tackle for losses, solid. 16.5 career sacks, solid. 5 pass breakups at the line of scrimmage, solid. Good career. The problem is the lack of athleticism and the lack of bend come across on his tape consistently, because the way he's built, you would think this is a bend edge guy, by, his metrics. He just can't, the bend's just not present. And it's like, man, if he just had that functional athleticism to round the corner just a little bit better, this dude would make it in the NFL. But it's kind of hard to be the body type and the role that you have him as. Again, there's two different defensive end types. This guy's the bend edge rusher. Hasn't really had that opportunity in the NFL yet. Maybe that changes. Now, personality-wise, Raymond Johnson III, he calls himself an old soul. Was asked, I found this cool interview. This is his playlist that he's got. Earth, Wind, and Fires, Keith Sweat, Bill Withers, Aretha Franklin. That's his number one playlist. So, salute there. Now, his career in the NFL, his first year, 2021 with the Giants, that's the only time he ever got actual playing time. Appeared in quite a few games and had 161 snaps that year. Most of it garbage time, late fourth quarter. But he's got some film to look back at. And he got one career sack against the Bucs. And I was like, ooh, could you imagine this dude's only sack of his career to be against Tom Brady? And then I went and looked through the stats and the box score. It wasn't against Tom Brady. It was in garbage time in the fourth quarter. It was against my least favorite 49ers player all time, Blaine Gabbert. Can't stand that dude. Can't stand that guy. So I was kind of like, I got to include that. You sack Blaine Gabbert, you're on the John Chapman nice list. Anyway, PFF scores didn't really come across because he didn't get enough snaps and all that kind of stuff. But only 4 pressures and 161 snaps, not good. But again, a lot of this is just garbage time, teams running out the clock, send out the reserves. You hate that he wasn't able to elevate himself past that. So he was with the Giants in 2021 where he did get 161 snaps. Then he goes to Cincinnati and's on their practice squad in 2022. Didn't get any defensive snaps that entire year. Then he goes to the Detroit Lions and Dan Campbell for 2023, and it's the same story. Practice squad all year, never got elevated. Didn't get any actual game reps. But you're talking about somebody that's now been through 3 separate NFL training camps and has found a way to hang on. Can he do that with the Niners? That's what's going to be interesting. Now, the Niners signed him February 15th. It's a vet minimum deal with no guarantees and no signing bonus. So the Niners got nothing really vested in him financially. They could walk away from this contract, and it's 100% cap savings. Even if you do sign him, he's not going to be part of the top 51, so that doesn't really even count to that. It's just not much. Now, you look at his career earnings, just over $1 million. So 3 years of the NFL, $1,065,000. That's what he's made so far. And if he doesn't make anything, if he doesn't catch on the practice squad with the Niners, he's not making anything this year either. Now, let's look at the depth chart at the defensive end spot. Again, remember, the 49ers keep 5 or 6 defensive ends. That's it. Locks, you got Bosa, you got Leonard Floyd, Yatir Gross-Matos, Robert Beal Jr. Those are my 4 locks, which means there's 1, possibly 2, spots left on the 53-man roster. Here's the guys he's competing with. Drake Jackson, Austin Bryant, Raymond Johnson III, Alex Barrett, Sam Okwonu. We just finished Sam Okwanu's breakdown. He's the previous number 82 in this countdown. So, Raymond Johnson's got to beat out Alex Barrett with his versatility. He's got to beat out Austin Bryant. That's probably his number 1 competition to be on this practice squad because Austin Bryant and Raymond Johnson III and Drake Jackson all do the same thing. They're the same pass rushing only specialist coming off the edge. Can he beat 1 or 2 of those guys? If he can beat 1 of those guys, he's got a chance to make the practice squad. He beats 2, he's on the practice squad. He beats 3, might be on the 53-man roster. But I don't think that's likely. Raymond Johnson III, our number 81 player, he's got to have some help, but can he impress? Can he find a way to get in with the 49ers coaches and Chris Kusarik and just be one of those guys that he could depend on? If there's a couple injuries, we can call him up, get 7 to 10 snaps, and that's kind of the role you're looking for. So I want to say thank you to Josh, Oscar, and Dave, our producers of this entire series. You are the best. But for us here, we'll just keep counting them down.